Hi, I'm Kara, mom of 3, pediatric sleep expert, certified parenting coach, and founder of Well Rested Mama. Welcome to the Unswaddled podcast. Tune in every other week as we chat about baby and toddler sleep solutions, overcoming parenting challenges, and all things messy motherhood. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Well Rested Mama Unswaddled. So this time we're going to talk about toddlers. If your little one is under the age of 2, our last episode focuses on the little ones, so you can head over there and watch that. If your little one is 2.5 to, let's say, 4, you're in the right place. We're going to break down sleep training your toddler. It's going to be relevant whether they're in a crib or not, okay? Also, if you've sleep trained before, like let's say you sleep trained at 6 months old, but now your little one is having sleep issues and they're 3, that is great, right? Like they've been exposed to sleep training before. However, it's just going to look a little bit different. So that's what we're going to break down today. But first things first, why do you feel like you have to sleep train your toddler? There's a couple things that come into play here, okay? So maybe a new sibling is coming and that's causing a little bit of change for them, a little bit of pushback. Maybe you've made the transition from a crib to a bed and their sleep has just gone to complete garbage, which we see all the time. And another reason could just be a regression or travel or something happened where a new response was introduced and now all of a sudden you're finding yourself stuck, whether that's in their room till they fall asleep or them coming out of the room constantly. These are all reasons that we see that lead us to the conclusion of it's time to sleep train. Okay. So it might be your first time sleep training. It might be your second time, but either way, it's possible. We can do it. We just have to make sure we're doing it right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So before we get started, there's a couple things that we want you to focus on and pay attention to and make sure that we are aligning correctly in the sense of sleep training a toddler can be difficult just in general. Sleep training an overtired toddler can be crazy. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that if your little one is still napping, that you are using those appropriate wake windows. Okay. The nap length is right there. If they're at daycare and nap isn't going as planned, we want you moving bedtime earlier. So really paying attention to that daytime schedule and just making sure you're really doing that appropriate bedtime to make sure they're not overtired for that initial tuck-in period that's going to be happening. If they are old enough, okay, we're going to talk about it, right? They're not going to care what you're saying. I promise you that, but you can still try. We can talk about how exciting it's going to be in their big bed, or, you're going to sleep in your room all night long, right? Like you're not going to sleep with mommy and daddy anymore. We can introduce rewards, just get them a little bit exposed to what's about to happen. At the end of the day, is this conversation going to change how it goes? Absolutely not. However, it can mentally prepare them that it's coming. You can make sure they feel included. They're buying in. They want that reward. This way, everybody knows it's coming. Everybody knows what to expect, regardless of how it's actually going to go. One specific way that I personally really encourage my clients to do is within the bedtime routine, okay? We make it a process in the sense of they have a chart, okay? Or sometimes, I don't know if you guys have seen on our Instagram, the big poster board I whip out every once in a while where it'll go through all the steps of the bedtime routine. And it's essentially all attainable, right? So everything on there is something that they already are going to do. There's no room to not get 1 star, sticker, check, whatever you're using, because it's all things that they have to do for their bedtime routine. But what happens is they start to see, they're involved in it. Okay. Whether they're putting a sticker, okay, I brushed my teeth, I put my jammies on, I did, they're going through the steps. The last one is going to be, I stayed in my bed all night long. Okay. And with sleep training, they will have stayed in their bed or in their room all night long. So they're achieving that goal every single day. And at the bottom, I've had people that do like something tangible. Okay. Like a dollar store item or a piece of candy or something that says donuts for breakfast, whatever it may be. Every day of the week has a different thing. By the end of the week, if they've, checked all their boxes, which they will because we're sleep training, they get a big prize. When I did this with Blakely, I think hers was Target. So she went through her chart at the end of the week, her 5 days or whatever it was. She got to pick something out from Target and that was it. So those are all going to be ways to just kind of make sure you're, like I said, introducing it, giving some buy-in, setting them up for success. You just have everything ready so that you're able to just jump into it and get the sleep training going. Now, when it comes to the actual sleep training that we are doing, okay, the biggest thing about sleep training is right now, the reason you're sleep training is because it's difficult to get your little one to bed or they're waking up in the middle of the night, okay? Something is happening, right, where you want that change. So sleep training is helping them make that connection that you're still there, even though you're not physically maybe with them at bedtime or in the middle of the night, that interaction that's happening, or them coming to your bed, okay? Those are all interactions that they want that are kind of reassuring to them that you're still there. So with the sleep training, we're teaching them that you're still there. However, we have to help them understand that you're on the other side of that door. All their needs are met. There's nothing necessarily wrong, right? And that you're going to come if they need you, but also they're okay and they're safe and they're in the room and it's time to go to sleep. So that's the connection that we're trying to make. With that being said, with this sleep training technique, you are involved in the process. It can feel like a lot in the beginning, a lot of in and out, a lot of back and forth. But the reason for that is, like I said, they have to make that connection that you're coming back. In order for them to understand you're coming back, you have to come back, okay? If you shut the door and never went back in, that might be a little bit confusing, right? We want that back and forth to be happening so that they can make that connection that's like, oh, there they are. Oh, there they are. They're back. But they're not staying. They're not laying with me. They're not doing X, Y, and Z. Okay. So they start to get that pattern. They start to understand you're coming back, but they're also identifying those boundaries. And you're going to start to notice that they're making that connection. Well, first off, let's talk about an example of a baby that's in a crib. Toddler. That little one is standing. Okay. And first off, let me back up a second. You are putting them in their crib fully awake. Like I am talking, good night, buddy. I love you. See you in the morning. And you're turning off the light. I can promise you they're not going to be like, you know what? You go make a nice dinner. I'll see you in the morning. Okay. They're not going to do that. They're going to be like, where do you think you're going? This isn't what we normally do. And they're going to have that pushback, which is normal and it's expected. All toddlers are different. Okay. So we don't know what that initial response is going to be, but most likely they're standing, they're crying their hardest. They're calling out for you, okay? When they are at that full escalation, what we call level 10, okay? So that's maximum volume, so cry, and maximum mobility, right? So they're standing, they're crying their hardest. You're starting your timer. That timer needs to be running for a full 5 minutes before you're going into the room. Now, something that I really want to clarify, because I think this is where a lot of people mess up, is that it's not just 5 minutes of crying, because there are going to be times that your little one's laying down and crying or sitting and crying. And if you go in during that time, they're going to pop right up. They're going to escalate. And now you're going in and making it worse. Okay. Now you're not going to be able to calm them down. Every time you're going into the room, I want you making it better. So by doing that and waiting for that full level 10, you're going in at the right time. They will respond to you. Okay. So when you go in, you're guiding them to lay down. This is super quick, super reassuring, but you're in and out. Okay. We want them to know there you are, right? You're back. A little soothing session. Let's say you get them from a level 10 to a level 9. That's okay. You got them down. You're out of there. They're going to stand right back up and you're going to repeat that process. This is going to happen back to back for the first, I don't know, let's say 20 minutes. Okay. You might be every 5 minutes in and out, in and out, in and out. But once they start to make that connection that, oh, they're back, you're going to notice that it starts to get, number one, easier to soothe them. So you might go in and all of a sudden they're going from a level 10 to a level 5. Okay. Whereas before they were only going from a 10 to a 9. So now it's getting easier. Then they're going to start to stay calm for longer. And what that means is that now that 5 minute repetitiveness is kind of spacing out. But the only time it's spacing out is because that little one is showing you signs. Okay. Maybe that they sat down. Maybe they stopped crying. Maybe they're standing and just calling out, right? They're standing, but they're not crying their hardest. Because remember, they have to be doing both things. They're not doing one of those two. They're not at level 10, which means you're giving them space. During that time frame, you're stopping your timer. Okay. So for example, they're full blown level 10. You start the timer. You get to 2 minutes and 35 seconds and they sit down. you are stopping that timer. Okay. Now you're waiting to get back to that level 10, which means you're waiting for them to stand back up. You're waiting for that volume to escalate to that 10. You're starting your timer over from 0. If you're thinking that 5 minutes is too long, I just want to kind of put something into perspective. Like 3 minutes for a baby is more appropriate, right? Because their memory is not really like lasting that long. So like a 5-month-old, right? They need that like back and back and back. A toddler, if you're in their space every 3 minutes, you're going to just annoy them. Now you're in their room too much. You're not doing what they want. You keep coming in their space and they just don't even have a chance to soothe themselves and calm down, right? So by giving them that 5 minutes, it's age appropriate. You're there. If it's level 10 every 5 minutes, like that's very repetitive and it's very close together, even though I know it can feel like forever when they're older. Because trust me, I did this with Blakely at 3.5 and it was so fun. They need that time, okay? If you don't give them a chance to just think like, oh, I'm going to sit down, they're never going to have that opportunity and you're just going to be in there every 3 minutes and now everyone's crying and it's going to be a disaster. So 5 minutes is appropriate. It works. You just have to be consistent and just make sure it's that 5 minutes of level 10. That biggest mistake people make, like I said, is just doing 5 minutes of crying. And that's not going to work. It's going to end up actually resulting in more crying overall. You're implementing that until they are asleep. And then again, anytime they wake up in the middle of the night, you're repeating that 5-minute check-in process. And you will implement that all the way till morning. So whatever your designated morning wake up time is let's say your goal is 7 to 7. You're sleep training from that initial bedtime until they fall asleep. And then anytime they wake up before 7 o'clock in the morning. Another thing I want to point out is that 4 to 6 a.m. is the lightest time of sleep for them. So you're going to see a lot of movement, maybe hear a lot. Typically they do go back down, but you have to continue that sleep training because if you start to get them up during that time frame, you're going to reinforce that early morning waking and they're going to do it the next day and the next day, and then you're going to be stuck. So it's really important you're sleep training until that morning wake up time. And even if, let's say they were up from 6:15 to 7 and they didn't go back down, but 7's their wake up time, that's okay. You're going in, you're getting them up, cheering them on, starting your day and acting like nothing happened. And keep in mind, no matter what that night looked like, no matter what that early morning looked like, you're still getting that stayed in my bed all night long check mark, which means they're getting up and they're getting that reward. And you're going to start to see that excitement transpire throughout the week. And you're really going to see that buy-in. And just remember, toddlers are very strong-willed. They can be stubborn. Just keep in the back of your mind that this might not be rainbows and butterflies, but they can do it. They're testing their boundaries. They're seeing how far they can push you. And as long as you power through and you continue with that training, they're going to do it less and less. They're going to start to identify that routine and that process, and you're going to see it all fade out. However, if they're being super persistent, they're calling out or they're saying something, I don't know, random, they're all random, water, whatever it may be, and you do that, your response to that request matters. Okay. So if you respond in a way of providing what they're requesting, guess what? You just opened a whole new can of worms and they're going to try that plus something else the next time. So it's really important that you know that they have everything they need. Their requests are just requests. They're testing those boundaries. And as long as you power through, you'll get to the other side and it won't be a big deal. Another thing that toddlers like to do is climb out of their crib. Okay. If you are watching on a monitor and you have a little one that is, let's say 2.5, and they're starting to lift that leg, number one, I want to make sure they're in a sleep sack. Number two, that mattress is dropped all the way to the floor. Number three, you are going in and doing a check-in and guiding them to lay back down. We don't want them successfully climbing out. And to be honest, I would say most kids are not ready for a big bed until they're like 3.5. On a cognitive level, a child, yes, will be able to understand like, this is my bed. I'm supposed to be in my bed all night. They know that. They know what you're saying. They can say it back to you. But when it comes to in the moment, they don't follow through. Okay. And the freedom of that is too much for them to handle. So this is where, we do see a lot of people make this transition too soon and it'll go great for like a week, but then all of a sudden it's a disaster. Okay. That's because for the first couple nights, or let's say first 2 weeks, they're staying in their bed because guess what? They don't know that they can get out. The second they can figure out that they can get out, it is game over. They are roaming the room. And then guess what? They're going to figure out next how to get out of the room. And now all of a sudden they're roaming the house and you're literally stuck and you don't know what to do. This is going to transition into now, how do we sleep train a little one who is not in a crib? I'm going to tell you. So when they're in the crib, before, you made this transition, they were not aware that they could get out. They were not aware that they could exit the room, right? Because they never had to do that. They never did it before. Once they're able to do that, and once they figure it out, like I said, too much space. They don't know how to handle it. And that's where we really see that disruption, not only in bedtime, but in the middle of the night. And then we see parents that feel that they need to lay with them in order to keep them in their room. So now we're just adding and adding. So when it comes to sleep training, we're essentially treating the entire room like a crib. You can do this a couple ways. You can use a door monkey, which is a piece of plastic that goes at the top. They can open the door about an inch or so, but they can't physically open the door. You can use a safety handle, which is what I personally use. Think of the handles that you would put on your door that go out to the garage or go out to the backyard. They make them for levers. They make them for doorknobs. Okay. Something that basically restricts their ability to leave the room. And I know what you're thinking. You want me to lock my kid in the room? I mean, yes, but it's not as bad as that sounds. You're keeping them safe. They are safest in their room. I actually have an episode on this with a firefighter that will explain why they are safest in their room. So if you have questions on that, please go watch that episode. It's a really good one, but I promise you they're safest in their room. Their doors need to be shut. And if they cannot handle staying in the room, you have to do it for them to keep them safe at night. So yes, we are going to prevent them from leaving the room. Now, once they can no longer leave the room, now their room's their big crib. You're implementing the sleep training the same way, except you're going to the door instead of entering the room and going to their crib. So it looks the same. We're still waiting for that level 10. We're still waiting for that 5 minutes, but just know their level 10 is now they're at the door. They're crying their hardest. So when you open that door, you're guiding them back to their bed, tucking them in, soothing a little bit, and you're leaving, and you're repeating that until they fall asleep. And obviously this goes without saying, they're not going to be happy, but you are going to be in and out of the room so much. There's not going to be any part of them that feels neglected or alone. Like I promise you, you are going to be in and out of the room a ton. But when they're in that room, they're going to get to a point where they're no longer at the door and they're no longer level 10, which means they're walking around their room or they're distracted by something. That means that their room needs to be safe, okay? If they're climbers, the furniture needs to be attached to the wall. If there's stuff that you think they're going to mess with, preemptively get it out of there. It's their space. They're allowed to move around. They're allowed to do whatever they want. Just like they walked back and forth in their crib, they might walk back and forth in their room. I highly recommend a monitor so that you can see what they're doing. You can see the room. You can see where they are, because there are times that they fall asleep on the floor. Being able to see them is going to be helpful for you in terms of identifying that level 10, but also having that peace of mind of knowing like what they're doing, what they're messing with. Are they sleeping? Are they not? So like I mentioned, I did this with Blakely. She was 3.5. So what was going on with her was she was a passy kiddo. Okay. So she had the passy until this point, I guess 3.5, we wanted to take it away. The reason I wanted to take it away is because she was in a queen size bed. She had a duvet cover, like full bedding, and her passies just kept getting like lost in her covers. So she is now waking me up to find passies. And I was like, okay, we're not like regressing. We're not going backwards, right? Like she hadn't woken in the night since she was like probably 9 weeks old. I was like, we're not doing this. I knew it was time to get rid of the passy. And trust me, I even tried to put like a basket of passies on her nightstand so she could just like get a new one or whatever. And for whatever reason, it just wasn't working. And we took the passy away, and she, like I said, was 3.5. So her door handle was still on. I personally always kept the door handles on until they were using the bathroom independently. So 100% getting up, going to the bathroom independently, and getting back in bed. So I'm talking wiping themselves, washing their hands, like doing everything, because before that, if they needed assistance going to the bathroom, I was getting up anyway. So I would just go get them up when I heard them ask to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Regardless, once she was taking away the passy, she could not get out of her room. Like she knew she wasn't able to exit her room. So that wasn't really part of it. It was more the passy that was the problem. Keep in mind, Blakely never got out of bed. So like ever, never tried to open the door. Really, like we never had any issues with that because she had been an independent sleeper this whole time. So this is kind of like a self-inflicted sleep training because she was fine. She wasn't getting out of bed, but she was looking for the passy, if that makes sense. So with her,
The 5 minutes, to be honest, was too much for her. She needed longer. And I actually, this is from so long ago, but I did document it and it is still in my highlights on my Instagram. But she is like screaming bloody murder. Like, don't watch it in public. She's screaming bloody murder, and we did 10 minutes. And because we knew she would never got out of bed, I knew that she could handle a check-in before she was out the door. But typically, I would say 95% of the time, they are at the door, okay? So it really depends on your little one. It really depends. I mean, you guys know your kids best, right? So if you know, like, there's zero chance my kid's going to get out of their bed, then maybe level 10 looks different for you. But for her, we knew what she needed. So she was losing her mind. And I mean, we would go in fully, help her catch her breath, stuff like that. And that progression was a lot of in and out. She actually did end up getting out of bed once, I think. And then there was a lot of looking for passies. I don't know if she was just trying to get lucky or whatnot, but she really progressed quickly. And I want to say it was like 4 or 5 nights, and she was going to bed without the passy. Middle of the night, she was able to put herself down without it. So yes, it was kind of crazy that first night or two, but she really got used to it. And that's just kind of how they all are. I will say, no matter like what the scenario is, most kids this age are really progressing within the first like 3 to 4 nights. You're like seeing and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Especially if they go to daycare and they like nap perfectly at daycare. It works so fast because they already know how to do it. They just don't do it for you at home, right? So you're kind of introducing something and you're setting boundaries at home, but it's already something that they do 5 days a week. So for you guys, it's going to be even faster. But as long as you're consistent, as long as you stick with it and implement the training correctly, it does work. It works fast. It's just a matter of you getting ready to do it and just making sure you are 100% committed to the process. I do know that that was a lot, and I really tried to explain everything in as much detail as I could. But there obviously are times where you're just like, I still need to talk to you. I still need support. Tell me what to do. Talk me through it. Make sure I'm doing it right. And like, that's totally okay. And that's what we're here for. So if you are feeling that way, we do have coaching one-on-one where we can talk to you, get everything set up, put your plan together, tell you exactly what to do while you're doing it. We have consult calls where we can chat through everything, and I can make sure that sleep training is going to work for you guys, make sure it's a good option for you. And during that time, we can also talk through what the packages look like, what the support looks like, and how we can support you guys through it, because I want you to be successful. I hate hearing people that are tired and don't sleep through the night, because you genuinely deserve it, and you're just a better person when you're sleeping. That's my 2 cents. So follow us on Instagram. We're working on a series right now that's breaking down the sleep training even more. So head over there for more information. And we'll be doing a Q&A soon, so you can ask questions specific to your situation. Or if you have questions on this video, leave them in the comments and we will be sure to answer. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, or share with a friend. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and we'll see you next time.